Few ideas have changed our understanding of life as deeply as natural selection. It explains why animals are adapted to their environments, why species change over time, and why all living things are connected through common ancestry. One of the key figures behind this idea was Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin was a British naturalist born in 1809. He was curious, careful, and remarkably observant. He wasn't just someone who looked at nature and guessed. He collected evidence, compared specimens, read widely, and spent years thinking deeply about what he had seen. That patience is one of the reasons Darwin became such an important figure in science. In 1831, Darwin joined the HMS Beagle on a voyage around the world. He was only in his early 20s, but this journey would transform biology forever. As the Beagle travelled through South America, islands, forests, deserts and coastlines, Darwin studied animals, plants, fossils and geology. And he began to notice patterns. Fossils resembled living animals. Island species looked similar to mainland species, but slightly different. Closely related animals seemed to change depending on the environments they lived in. These observations raised an enormous question. Why does life look the way that it does? One of the most famous parts of Darwin's journey was his visit to the Galapagos Islands. There, he encountered animals that seemed perfectly suited to their environments. The best known examples were the finches. Different finches had different beak shapes. Some had thick, powerful beaks for crushing seeds. Others had long, narrow beaks for feeding on insects or cactus flowers. The birds were similar enough to suggest a shared ancestry, but different enough to suggest they had gradually changed over time. And this helped Darwin begin developing one of the most important scientific ideas ever proposed: evolution by natural selection. So what is natural selection? Natural selection is the process where individuals with traits that help them survive and reproduce are more likely to pass those traits on to the next generation. It begins with variation. No population is completely identical. Some individuals are slightly larger, some are faster, some may have better camouflage, stronger immune systems, sharper senses, or beaks, better suited to particular foods. If a trait gives an advantage in a specific environment, the individuals with that trait are more likely to survive and reproduce. And because traits can be inherited, those advantageous characteristics become more common over generations. Over long periods of time, populations can change dramatically. That is evolution by natural selection. What made Darwin's idea so revolutionary was that it provided scientific explanation for adaptation. Before Darwin, people could clearly see that animals appeared beautifully suited to their environments. Birds had wings, fish had fins, predators had claws and sharp teeth. But Darwin helped explain how these adaptations could arise naturally. Not because nature has a goal, and not because species are trying to become perfect, but because inherited variation affects survival and reproduction. Generation after generation, nature filters variation. Darwin was not the only person to reach this extraordinary conclusion. Another brilliant naturalist, Alfred Russel Wallace, independently developed a very similar theory after studying wildlife in the Amazon and Southeast Asia. Wallace's work encouraged Darwin to finally publish his own ideas. Today, both Darwin and Wallace are recognised as central figures in the discovery of natural selection. Natural selection is now considered one of the most important ideas in the history of science. It explains the diversity of life, the relationship between species, the origin of adaptations, and the deep evolutionary connections shared by every organism on Earth. Charles Darwin's genius was not simply that he realised life changes, it was that he discovered a mechanism, a simple, elegant, scientific explanation for how evolution happens. And once you understand natural selection, the living world never looks the same again.